How's it going, everybody? This video is an add-on to my how to unwrap UVs like Blizzard. I highly recommend you watch. A lot of people watch it so far. I didn't know the video was going to be as successful as it is, but a lot of you seem to like it, so thank you very much for watching and all that. However, there are some comments that I do want to address, and that's the purpose of this video, because some people were saying that these UVs outdated. Why are you wasting so much time doing UVs? There are tools that just do it with one click, and I want to address the reason why you want to do UVs like this as opposed to just use an auto tool and be done with that. And not just take my word for it. I am going to show you with models of AAA video games how they do their UVs, so you can see that it's not just me. Some other people pointed out like this isn't a Blizzard thing. It's really not. I just call it UVs like Blizzard because that's how I always call it. It was like the first company that I saw doing this, but certainly a lot of companies are doing this, especially with current games. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to address was some criticism that I got because of how I packed my UVs on that video. The purpose of that video was to show how to unwrap, not how to pack. So in the end, what I did was just a quick Maya packing. It wasn't good. Yeah, I agree, it wasn't good. So what I did is I accommodate the packaging to something that I would ship. So you can see the difference. I'm going to put the previous UVs here if you haven't watched that video, so you can see the difference. Again, yeah, that criticism is totally deserved because I should have not included the packing portion of that video. I just want to show you the UVs, but a lot of people were mentioning that. Just want to make sure that I showed you how I would do it correctly for an asset that I would ship, and you can see how the space is better utilized. All right, so here in Blender, I have a set of characters from various games, so we can check the UVs and see if what you guys are saying that doing rectified UVs is outdated, nobody is doing it, and all that stuff. So let's start with the Blizzard portion, and we're gonna start with the older game, which is StarCraft 2. So as you can see, this is a pretty much a semi-rectified UVs. It's not a complete square, but you can see that her main torso body part is just unwrapped this way. UVs are overlapping and it's in a rectangular fashion, but still it's kind of rectified. The reason why I brought this Sarah Kerrigan in particular is because this is from an in-game cinematic character. So this is not like the units that you see in StarCraft. This is her when you are in kind of like that hub area where you're selecting the mission. So you can see how her unwrapping is done. And yes, she is a little bit more high poly because it's supposed to be quote unquote a cinematic, versus what's next to her is the Surtling. This is a Surtling, but this is a unit. This is not the Surtling that goes into the in-game cinematic. This is a unit that you would see in game. And as you can see, the UVs for the Surtling are not rectified, even though it's an organic figure. But it's a very low poly character. I'm missing the wings, by the way. But you can see how everything is laid out. It's not in a rectangular fashion. So even though this is a Blizzard asset, it is not rectified. Not everything that comes out of Blizzard follows that same workflow. All right, now let's continue with the WoW character. As you can see, this one is not only rectangular, but these UVs are completely rectified outside from the face. You can see that mostly everything is in a squared fashion and there is no distortion. That's one of the comments that I kept seeing on my video is don't do this because you're going to get distortion. You're not going to get distortion. I showed it on my video and I'm showing it to you with these AAA assets where you can see that they are unwrapping this way. And yes, if you would overlay the checker pattern on this character, you would see that there would be some distortion, but when you are texturing, it's actually not a problem. Now over here we have Genji. He is a character from Overwatch, and you can see that there is some rectification. However, he is very hard. He's a very hard surface character, so there are certain pieces that are just hard surface, which are unwrapped as they are. But you can see that his legs and his arms and his torso is as rectified as it can be. So not everything has to be completely triangular. There's some parts that are a little bit curved, but they do have several pieces that are that have sharp angles in order to fit better. Because like somebody said on Twitter, these are just optimized UVs. This is how you optimize a UV space a little bit better. All right, now let's look at something that is a little bit more current, like Psylocke from Marvel Rivals. A lot of people know that game. A lot of people playing Marvel Rivals. So you can see how everything is laid out. Her clothes is layout in some pieces are rectified, others are not. But there's different ways that you can do UVs. These UVs includes the mostly like her swimsuit and everything else. If we look at the skin, and sorry, I'm just putting something over here because I don't want to be demonetized, but you can see that this UVs, certain parts are rectified, others are not. But yeah, you can see that it's all about how you want to utilize the UV space. You can see that this part of the leg is unwrapped, more looking like the shape of the leg, whereas this part is completely rectified. So my point with this is that even though you rectify one side, it doesn't mean that you're going to get distortion. That is false. People that have been saying that if you do this, you're going to get distortion. That is completely false. You can see how the feet is unwrapped here. I didn't even rectify the feet, but you can see that in Marvel Rivals, they are rectifying even the feet, although not everything is rectified on her. And what we saw from the previous model, not everything was rectified from the swimsuit. Now, moving on to asset that is a little bit more realistic. This is Loon from Clara Obscure. I think some of you have heard of that game. It's a small indie game that not a lot of people play, but here you go. Now you can see that this unwrapping is a little bit different. I'm just showing you the skin part. We'll look at the clothing in a second. This is the typical unwrapping from the metahumans because she is, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring a character from Clara Obscure, because she is using the metahuman workflow, and you can see that the UVs are not rectified at all. They're just laid out in a way that it could utilize a lot of the space. Now, I don't have all the UVs here because this is the skin texture, and she is wearing clothes. So usually when you're making a character like this, you're not going to have the body underneath the clothes. That'd be a huge waste of resources. What you're seeing is only the parts of her that are skin. So you can see how the UVs are laid out a lot different. There is no rectification. However, these, when it comes to these UVs, and this is an educated guess, but I think these are the UVs, how they come out of Marvelous Designer. I'm sure that these characters use a lot of Marvelous Designer in their workflow. So in Marvelous, you can just do your UVs pretty quickly in there, and it's much easier to deal with later if you UV in Marvelous. But what I wanted to show you that, yeah, there are other ways aside from rectify UVs of the AAA. Yeah, Clara Obscure is an indie game, as I said in the beginning, but I do think they are at the AAA quality. AAA used to mean quality. It didn't used to mean that it was just made by a corporation. I think these assets are all AAA, even though some of them are from indie games. But you can see that there are other ways to unwrap aside from the rectified one. And we have Jonesy. Now, this is a character from Fortnite, a game that a lot of people play. You know, it's a current game by all means. And you can see that they use the rectified workflow in some parts, but not on every single part that they have. And they do have, I think, this is a very similar workflow to what Blizzard have in terms of how they treat the texture, because they do their diffuse kind of like hand painted, but they also have PBR. But again, you can see that the UVs here are rectified. These UVs are not rectified. I couldn't make these UVs completely rectified and this still be totally fine, but that is the decision that they made at the studio and as to how to optimize these. And here you have Eve from Stellar Blade, and you can see how the UVs are laid out a little bit different than all the other UVs that we've seen. We have the whole suit here inside of one UV sheet. Nothing is rectified. And there are different seams in places where I honestly wouldn't have used seams, but just to show you that it depends on your workflow. It depends on what your lead designer, your art director is deciding to do. It's not about exactly what you want or what you think is better, is what the guys upstairs are telling you how to do it. And you can see that this is a little bit different from everything else. So most of these characters that I have here, minus Jonesy, I do have dedicated dissected videos on the channel. So if you're interested in watching a dissected video of a particular character, I'm going to leave the dissected playlist down below. You can find the video of the character that you want. So I've done for Stellar Blade, Marvel Rivals, Claire Obscure, and all these characters. I think the only character that I haven't done a dissected video for is Fortnite. But we did do the comparison between the Fortnite skins, the Overwatch ones versus the Overwatch model. So in there, you can see a little bit more in depth about the Fortnite character. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you want more tutorials, or would you rather see more dissected videos here on the channel. Again, thank you so very much for watching all the way to this point. Subscribe if you haven't, leave a like, and leave a comment for the algorithm. I'll see you in the next one.